The day my child was born should have been the happiest of my. But instead my mother whispered that I would never be a good parent, and those cruel words from the person I needed most still echo louder than the cry of my baby. I was holding my newborn daughter, when my mother leaned close and whispered the words that would haunt me forever. "I'll never be a good parent. Not after what done." The delivery room should have been filled with joy. Instead it felt like a courtroom where I was about to be sentenced. My wife Sarah lay exhausted in the hospital bed, still believing I was the man she married. Still believing our daughter had been conceived in love, not lies. She smiled at me through her tears of joy, completely unaware that I'd been texting another woman throughout her entire pregnancy. The affair started 6 months ago. Sarah was dealing with morning sickness, mood swings and constant fatigue. She'd fall asleep by 8 p.m. every night, leaving me feeling ignored and unimportant. I know how that sounds now, I know how selfish it was. But back then, I felt justified. I felt like I deserved attention. I felt like I deserved to feel wanted. Jessica was a coworker who actually laughed at my jokes. She made me feel interesting again. Like the person I used to be before diapers and baby preparations took over our conversations. It started with coffee breaks that lasted too long. Then lunch meetings that had nothing to do with work. I told it was harmless. Just friendship. Just someone who understood me. The first time I Jessica, Sarah was at home assembling the crib. She called me 3 times that day, excited about setting the nursery, wanting me to come home and help. I let those calls go to voicemail while I was busy destroying our marriage. I justified it by telling Sarah had changed. She wasn't the fun, spontaneous woman I'd married. She was obsessed with the pregnancy, constantly talking about baby names and birthing plans. She'd gained weight. She was always tired. She wasn't meeting my needs. Every excuse I made was, every justification was a nail in the coffin of our family. The physical affair lasted 3 months. 3 months of sneaking around, deleting text messages and lying about working late. 3 months of coming home to Sarah rubbing her growing belly, excited to share pregnancy updates with the father of her child. The father who was betraying her every single day. Jessica started talking about leaving her own relationship. She said she was falling in love with me. She wanted me to leave Sarah and start fresh with her. The pressure made everything real in a way that terrified me. That's when I tried to end it. But ending an affair isn't like ending a normal relationship. There's no clean break when built something on lies and secrets. Jessica didn't take it well. She said she'd tell Sarah everything if I didn't come back to her. She said she had photos, text messages, proof of everything we'd done together. She said she'd make sure my wife knew exactly who she'd married. I panicked. I begged her not to. I promised I'd figure things out, that I just needed time. I was buying time I didn't have with promises I couldn't keep. Sarah went into labor 3 weeks early. I was in a meeting with Jessica, trying to convince her to give me more time, when my wife called screaming that her water had broken. I raced to the hospital with Jessica's threats echoing in my head. Sarah needed me to be strong, to be her partner through the most important moment of our lives. Instead, I was consumed with fear about my secrets being exposed. The labor was long and difficult. Sarah squeezed my hand for hours, trusting me completely. She told me she loved me. She said she couldn't wait to raise our daughter together. She said I was going to be an amazing father. Every word was like a twisting in my chest. When Emma finally arrived screaming and perfect and beautiful, I should have felt pure joy. Instead, I felt overwhelming guilt. This innocent baby girl deserved better than a father who'd spent her mother's pregnancy cheating. That's when my mother approached me. She'd been suspicious for weeks. Mothers always know. She'd seen the way I checked my phone obsessively. She'd noticed how distracted I was during family dinners. She'd watched me lying to her daughter-in-law's face. "I know about Jessica," she whispered as I held my daughter. "I know what been doing while Sarah carried child." The room started spinning. My mother, the woman who'd raised me to be honest and faithful, knew I was I'll never be a good parent. She continued, her voice cold and disappointed. "Not after what done. That innocent baby deserves so much better than." Those words deeper than Jessica's threats, deeper than my own guilt. My mother, who had always believed in me, was telling me I wasn't worthy of the title father. Sarah was across the room, talking to the nurses about fee schedules and discharge plans. She was already being the perfect mother, making plans for our family's future. She had no idea that our marriage was already over. I looked down at Emma's tiny face and realized my mother was right. This baby girl deserved a father who would protect her family, not destroy it. She deserved a father who would be faithful to her mother, not someone who cheated while she was growing inside the. The worst part was knowing that my choices had already shaped her world. Emma would grow in a broken home because of decisions I made before she even took her first breath. My mother walked away without another word, leaving me holding my daughter and drowning in the weight of what I'd done. Sarah called me over to the bed, wanting to take our first family photo. I walked over with Emma, trying to smile, trying to pretend this was the happiest day of my. But all I could hear were my mother's words, "I'll never be a good parent." And the most terrifying part was knowing she was absolutely right. 3 days after we brought Emma home, Jessica showed at our front door. Sarah was upstairs napping with the baby. I was in the kitchen trying to figure out how to work the pump when the doorbell rang. Through the window I saw Jessica's car in our driveway. My turn to ice. I opened the door just wide enough to slip outside, but Jessica pushed past me into our living room. She was crying, mascara running down her face, holding a manila envelope. "Won't return my calls," she said, her voice shaking. "Won't answer my texts. So I'm here to make this simple for." Sarah's voice called from upstairs, "Honey, who just a delivery?" I called back, my voice cracking. "I'll handle it." Jessica heard the exchange and smiled through her tears. It was the cruelest smile I'd ever seen. "Is that wife?" she asked loudly. "The one who just had baby. The one who doesn't know her husband has been sleeping with me for months." I grabbed her arm, trying to pull her toward the door. "Please don't do this. We can talk somewhere else." "Anywhere else." "I tried that," she hissed. "Ghosted me the moment baby was born. Used me and me away like garbage." The stairs creaked. Sarah was coming down, probably wondering why I was taking so long with a delivery. "I have photos," Jessica whispered urgently. "I have screenshots of every text sent me. I have hotel receipts. I have everything." She opened the envelope and showed me printed photos of us together. Photos I didn't even remember being taken. Us kissing in the parking lot, us holding hands at lunch, us looking like a couple. Choose, she said. Come back to me, or I show these to wife right now. Sarah appeared at the top of the stairs holding Emma. She was wearing one of my old t-shirts, her hair in a messy bun, still recovering from childbirth. She looked tired but happy, like a woman who trusted her husband completely. Everything okay down there? She asked. That's when Jessica made her decision for me. Hi Sarah. She called the stairs waving. I'm Jessica from Mark's work. I just came by to congratulate on the baby. The innocent explanation should have been my lifeline. I should have played along, gotten Jessica out of there and figured out damage control later. Instead I panicked. Sarah, don't come down, I said quickly. Jessica was just leaving. But Sarah was already walking downstairs, Emma in her arms, smiling politely at my coworker. She was being the gracious new mother, welcoming a guest into our home. Sarah said to Jessica. Mark never mentioned before. Jessica's eyes lit with vindictive pleasure. Oh, Mark mentions me all the time. Don't Mark, we're very close. The way she said, close, made Sarah pause. I watched my wife's face change as she picked on the tension in the room. Sarah was smart. She'd always been able to read people. How close? Sarah asked, her voice suddenly careful. Jessica looked at me, giving me one last chance to come back to her. When I said nothing, she pulled out her phone. Close enough that he told me he was thinking about leaving, Jessica said, showing Sarah a screenshot of our text conversation. Close enough that he said the pregnancy was ruining marriage. I watched my wife read the message, watched her face go white, watched her world collapse in real time. Sarah, I can explain. I started. But Sarah wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at the photo Jessica was now showing her. The photo of Jessica and me kissing in the hotel parking lot, taken just 2 weeks before Emma was born. Sarah sat down hard in our living room chair, still holding Emma, staring at the photo like it was written in a foreign language she was trying to translate. This was taken when I was in the hospital for my pressure scare. She said quietly. Said we're at work that night. Jessica pulled out more photos. He was with me. He said we're being dramatic about some test results. Each photo was like watching Sarah a little more. She looked at our baby, then at me, then at the evidence of my betrayal scattered across our coffee table. How long? She whispered. Sarah, please let me explain this privately. I begged, but Jessica wasn't done. 6 months. The entire second half of pregnancy. He said gotten boring and needy. He said he needed someone who made him feel alive again. I wanted to strangle Jessica for twisting my words, for making them sound even worse than they were. But the truth was, I had said those things. I had complained about Sarah to another woman. I had betrayed my pregnant wife trust in the cruelest possible way. Sarah stood slowly, Emma starting to fuss in her arms. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger. Not sadness, something worse, complete and total disappointment. Get out, she said quietly. Sarah, we need to talk about this. I pleaded. No, she said, her voice stronger now. Need to get out of my house. Both of Jessica seemed surprised that she was being thrown out too. She'd probably imagined this moment differently. Probably thought Sarah would fall apart and I'd run to her for comfort. Instead, Sarah walked to the door and held it open. Now. I tried one more time. Sarah, I love Emma. This was a mistake. A terrible mistake. Mistake was thinking I was enough not to figure it out eventually. Sarah said. Mistake was thinking could have both of us. Mistake was thinking I would ever forgive for doing this while I was carrying child. Jessica and I both left. She tried to get me to come with her, but I told her I never wanted to see her again. She destroyed any chance I had of fixing things with Sarah. But the truth was I'd destroyed it first. Jessica just pulled the trigger on I'd loaded. I drove to my mother's house, knowing I had nowhere else to go. When I walked in, she took one look at my face and shook her head. She found out, she said it wasn't a question. I nodded, too broken to speak. Good, my mother said. That girl deserves better than a husband who cheats on her while she's carrying his baby. That baby deserves better than a father who puts his own selfish needs first. I spent the night on my mother's couch, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Sarah alone in our house with Emma. Thinking about how I'd turned what should have been the most beautiful time in our lives into a nightmare. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Don't come home. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Can see Emma on weekends if proved can be a decent father. Right now, I don't trust with our daughter. The last part hit me like a physical. Sarah didn't trust me with an Emma. My wife thought I might our own child. I'd lost my family in a single afternoon. I'd lost my daughter's respect before she was even old enough to understand what respect meant. I'd lost everything that mattered, and I had no one to blame but. 6 months later, I'm writing this from my studio apartment, the kind of place rent when falls apart and need somewhere cheap to exist while figure out how destroyed everything good. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago. Sarah kept the house, got primary custody of Emma, and I got supervised visitation every other weekend. Supervised, because my own wife convinced a judge that I couldn't be trusted alone with my daughter. She wasn't wrong. During one of my first unsupervised visits, I brought Emma back to Sarah 15 minutes late because I'd been texting someone I'd met on a dating app. Sarah was waiting on the porch, worried sick, and I was delayed because I was already looking for my next escape from reality. That's when she filed for supervised visits. That's when I realized I really would never be a good parent. My mother's words echo every single day. When I wake in this empty apartment, when I see Emma for 4 hours on Saturday afternoons with a social worker watching my every move. When I lie in bed at night knowing I did this to, I'll never be a good parent. The supervised visits are. I have to meet Sarah and Emma at a community center where other broken families come to maintain the minimum legal connection between parents and children. There are toys scattered around trying to make it feel normal, but nothing about seeing own daughter in a sterile room with a stranger taking notes can ever feel normal. Emma's walking now. She took her first steps at Sarah's house, with Sarah's sister filming it on her phone. I saw it on social media before Sarah thought to tell me. My daughter's first steps, shared with the world before her own father knew about them. She doesn't run to me when I arrive for visits anymore. She's cautious, like she can sense that I'm not safe. Babies know. They can feel when something is broken in the people around them. Sarah looks different every time I see her, stronger, happier. She started dating someone new, a man from her book club who brings Emma little gifts and makes her laugh. Emma calls him Dan, and lights when he arrives to pick them after my visits. Dan will probably be at Emma's first birthday party. Dan will probably be the one she runs to when she gets. Dan will probably walk her down the aisles someday, because Dan didn't cheat on her mother while she was growing in the. I tried to ask Sarah if we could try counseling. If we could work things out for Emma's sake. She laughed, but not in a mean way, more like she was laughing at how ridiculous the suggestion was. Mark, she said, cheated on me for half my pregnancy. Brought that woman into our home 3 days after I gave birth. Choose her over our family every single day for months. There's nothing to work out, there's no coming back from what did. She was right, some things can't be fixed, some mistakes are permanent. The worst part is seeing how my choices affected everyone else. My mother barely speaks to me, she sends Emma birthday cards and Christmas presents, but she's never forgiven me for what I put Sarah through. At family gatherings, she treats me like a stranger who happens to share her last name. My sister stopped inviting me to events when her friends started asking too many questions about why I live alone, and only see my daughter on weekends. The truth was too embarrassing to explain repeatedly. Sarah's family, who used to treat me like a son, now look at me like I'm something they need to keep away from the people they love. They're not wrong. Work is awkward because everyone knows what happened. Jessica transferred to a different department, but the story spread anyway. I'm the guy who cheated on his pregnant wife. I'm the guy who lost his family because he couldn't keep it in his pants. I've been to therapy. The therapist asked me what I was hoping to accomplish. I said I wanted to understand why I'd made such terrible choices. She said I already knew why. I was selfish. I was immature. I was a coward who ran away from responsibility into the arms of someone who made me feel good about. The question, she said, is what going to do with that self-knowledge? But what can I do? My daughter's growing without me. My wife has moved on with a better man. My family is ashamed of me. My reputation is destroyed. I'm a cautionary tale now. I'm the story other men tell each other about what happens when cheat on pregnant wife. I'm the example people use when they want to explain why some mistakes can never be undone. Emma will grow knowing her father was the kind of man who abandoned her mother when she needed him most. She'll know that I chose temporary pleasure over permanent responsibility. She'll know that I'm the reason her parents don't live together. When she's old enough to understand what adultery means, she'll know that her father is an adulterer. When she's old enough to date, she'll know exactly what kind of man to avoid. I've become the villain in my own daughter's story. The man who broke her family before she was old enough to remember it being whole. Sometimes I wonder if I should just disappear completely. Stop the supervised visits. Stop pretending I'm going to become the father Emma deserves. Stop forcing my presence into their healing. But then I remember that running away is what got me into this mess in the first place. Running away from the responsibility of being a good husband. Running away from the hard work of maintaining a marriage during pregnancy. Running away into another woman's arms instead of staying and fighting for my family. I can't run away again. Even if staying means living with the daily reminder of what I destroyed. Even if staying means watching Emma grow from the sidelines. Even if staying means accepting that I will never be forgiven. My mother was right that day in the hospital.